Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Legacy Cafe podcast with your host, Robb Lucy. Robb is the author of the book, How Will You Be Remembered? A Guide for Creating and Enjoying Your Legacies Now. So grab yourself a cup of coffee and find yourself a seat in the Legacy Cafe. Here's Robb.
Thanks, Cathi, and hi, everyone. I'm Robb Lucy, and nice to be back on the Legacy Cafe. And today we're going to talk about pictures. Lots of them. Did you know that about 10 billion pictures are taken every single month around the world? Most of them now digital, that we've crossed the domain into digital. But the result of all this picture taking is, well, call it photo chaos. And if you're interested in creating some legacy stories, you want those pictures in them, because those pictures, yes, indeed, tell 1,000 words. They're hiding our stories and our traditions and the story of you, and they're lost because there's no time-managed great way to organize those pictures so you can keep up with them. Well, here comes the cavalry over the hill, the Association of Personal Photo Organizers. The lady who began this association is Cathi Nelson, and she's on the line. Hi, Cath.
Hi, excited to be here.
It was a fabulous idea you've got. So, Cathi, is it as bad as I just painted that picture of all these millions and billions of pictures, not all hidden and hiding away?
Yes, it really is. And I think, you were talking about digital photos, but in addition to all those digital photos that are hidden away that people have on their phones or on their computers or on their hard drives, or, they also have all those printed photos. When we took 24 or 36 rolls of film, and then we would get those double prints back because we all had to have the doubles. And then many of them are still sitting in those envelopes, with the negatives that they came in, stored in shoe boxes or drawers, or many of them, though, have made their way to photo albums, which are deteriorating at this point. A lot of people can picture those magnetic photos albums where their pictures are the pages are yellowing and their wonderful family photos are getting destroyed by being in those kind of chemical photo albums. But there's hope, like we mentioned, and also it's really important because these are the most important touchstones of your life. These are the memories that matter.
How do you differentiate the pictures? Because they all don't have the same value. Some will be a reminiscence of a football game or something, and others will be pretty deep and meaningful legacy stories that will be hugely entertaining and informative for our family and our descendants. So how do you organize them that way?
That's a great question. I try and tell people that they should assume that you want to eliminate about 80% of the photos that you have and keep the 20%, the ones that really matter. And I created a simple acronym that many people have found very helpful. I did this with my own clients, and now we have photo organizers across the country, the world, actually using this. It's called the ABCs of photo organizing. So just some quick tips for those that are listening. If you're going through, say, you have a big box of photos, and they're on your dining room table, and you're looking at those, and you just feel overwhelmed. As you start to go through those photos, I want you to think about, is this an A photo? That means, is it album worthy? Is a photo that you really want to see again someday that's going to mean something, that has a legacy attached to it? That would go in the A pile. If it's a B photo, it means, you can't quite make that decision, so you can put it back in the box and let your kids worry about what to do with those photos someday, but at least that it doesn't necessarily belong in that A pile. Then the C photos are the ones that, yes, you can throw them away in the can. Kind of a cute way to remember the C. And those are all the blurry doubles, and then many of the scenery shots, vacation photos. I always tell people, if you went to the Grand Canyon and you took 100 photos of a beautiful sunset, the Grand Canyon may not look that much different 100 years from now. So those photos, maybe keep one or two of your favorite vacation photos of the scenery shots or things. It's the stories, it's the S that matters most. Does that photo tell a story? And those are usually the ones with people in it. We love to look at photos of what were you wearing, how old were you in that picture. Those are the A-worthy photos because they have a story attached to them. So if you use that ABCs, then it can really kind of speed the process along.
Cathi, let's take a look at you call it Photo Organizing Made Easy.
Yeah, Photo Organizing Made Easy is a book that I have coming out, going from overwhelmed to overjoyed. So if you're feeling overwhelmed, you're not alone. Most people do. But the first step that we talk about when I help people with their photos is we call it the hunt and gather stage. And let's just, for the sake of this conversation, talk about printed photos because we can touch and feel them. It's different than digital. Sure. But you want to designate a location in maybe your living room, your kitchen room table for, tell people for another month or so this is going to be your workspace, or set up a table somewhere, and start to gather all those photo albums, all the loose photos, the boxes of photos, the little home movie videotapes, the children's artwork, the letters, all of those items that you would be, devastated if they suddenly were lost in a flood or a fire. But, just gather everything into one place. So it's much easier to do that. And then we call it, after that hunt and gather stage, you're assessing the mess. So you want to maybe, get a notebook and make a note. I have 15 magnetic albums. I have 3 heritage old albums from my great-grandparents. I have, boxes and boxes of loose photos. I have 17 VCR tapes. You just want to have a general oversense of what it is that you have so that you know what you're working with. That's a critical place. And then from there, you might want to ask other family members, do they have photos that you didn't know about? Do you have a great aunt who maybe still has photos in an attic or things? So you really want to do that hunt and gather and then assess the mess.
That must be pretty fulfilling, too, though, because that whole dining room table you took over for the month has now got yours and your family's lives in it in some sort of order that gives you some perspective on, how you can use them and where you can go with them.
Right. I mean, we took an astounding number of photos over the decades that we were using film, right? So those photos still exist, and many of them haven't been digitized. The next step is doing the organization. I mentioned the ABCs. But what's something really important to think about is to decide whether you want to organize your photos thematically or chronologically. So a lot of times people think about that all photos need to be organized in a chronological order. 1961, 1962, Johnny was 3, he was 4, here he's 5. And if you have your photos organized chronologically, you're lucky you, good for you. But many people don't have that, didn't save them like that. If they're loose in boxes and things, and they'll say, was Johnny 5 in this picture or was he 7? This is where I want to release you from that stress and anxiety, thinking that you have to organize chronologically. I like to say we live, we take photos in time chronologically, but we live thematically. And what I mean by that is, think about when is it that you most likely pull out your camera. And I bet you it's going to be birthdays, first day of school, vacations, weddings, births. I mean, it's not really a mystery of what people take photos of. You're probably just like everybody else. And it's much more interesting than to look at those photos. Did you always go to, I live here in the Northeast, so in Connecticut. Many people go to Cape Cod for vacation. So did you, as a family, go every year to the same cottage on Cape Cod? You probably have, decades of photos of those trips. It doesn't matter if those photos are then told, that legacy story is told chronologically. It's much more fun visually to look at photos out of time order. It gets pretty boring to see photos going, again, here let's use the sports analogy of Johnny playing soccer at 2, at 3, at 4. It's much more fun to see, Johnny photos of Johnny playing soccer at 4 and then hitting the header into the goalie when he's a senior in high school, right next to each other, to get that perspective of time passing.
Yeah, when you get them all on the dining room table and now you're going to organize them in a chronological way or a thematic way, do the themes kind of jump out at you when you're looking down at all these pictures on the table?
Yes, every time I've ever done this, it doesn't take long before. And if you ask people, what are your family traditions, what are the rituals, the events and things, it doesn't, again, it's going to be usually tied around celebrations, whether it's Christmas or Hanukkah. It's going to be family is usually really important, lots of family photos. Those are times when people really made sure they had those cameras out. Because when you're telling that legacy story, you're communicating your values as a family. These are the values that we live with. So those photos will represent the values of your life.
Yep. So we've hunted and gathered. We've assessed the mess. We've got everything on that table. Second stage, then, we're going to organize them chronologically or thematically, like you said, holidays, weddings, events, that sort of thing. Now that we've got those two done, I think now is the time to ABC them, isn't it?
Correct, right. Then now you're going to start that ABC process. And you want to use index cards. So hopefully you have like a pile of index cards and a pen and just say like a photo sort box. And then if you're going to be doing it, say, chronologically, this is your A box, and these are the 1961 photos. You put that on an index card, 1961 photos, and then you start putting those A photos, in a row there, kind of lined up. Or if it's thematically on the index card, you can write the themes, celebrations. And then as you find those celebration photos, the A photos, you put them in that pile.
The ABCs, as I remember you said, A is for the album. Those are good shots. B is for
the maybes.
Alrighty, then the C's are we can do without these.
And have a big garbage pail and be ruthless.
Editing is hard for people because they think, gee, if I throw this one away, even though I've got one just like it, Maybe we should keep this one too. Your advice on that one. So I've got 4 shots of great grandma, and her head is turned one way, then another way. What do I do?
Pick one and then put one for the B, because I know I've learned that over the years that people could not really part with them, and then the other 2 just throw away. So you've got your A and you've got your B, even though they're kind of closely related. Again, it's amazing how many clients I would work with that inherited boxes and boxes of photos from their parents, and they're devastated that they don't know who the people are in the photos. You don't want to pass that same kind of mess onto your kids. So, you want to be ruthless in terms of, cleaning up, because, again, you're keeping the photos that tell the story. So you're really not throwing away an important photo of grandma because you have already put her in the A and the B pile.
Okay, we've assessed the mess. We've kind of thematically or chronologically organized them. We've put them into good shots in the album. Box shots are the next ones, and then we get rid of the other stuff. But then we've got all these still pictures that we probably don't want as stills. We probably want them as digital content. How do you start to convert all this stuff?
So that's the next step, right, is scanning the images. So you can either do it yourself, which can be tedious and take time, or you can have somebody do it for you. And then in terms of if you have somebody do it for you, we have, there's local photo organizers who will come to your home and bring their scanners and do it right there in your home if you don't like the idea of, you're afraid of shipping them off. Or you can certainly box them up and ship them off to a reputable company. Price does matter. It's just like anything else. You get what you pay for. So I wouldn't look for the cheapest, lowest price option when it comes to scanning your precious photos. I think that's a natural human tendency to go for the low price. But I've had enough experience with this, knowing that you want a company that's going to scan them at a high DPI, 600 DPI. You want them to be scanned in some kind of organized fashion. So you don't want to send a big, huge box of messy photos to a scanning company. They're just going to send you the same mess back digitally. That's really just recreating the same mess, just now it's on your computers. But you don't want to scan all your photos again, so you really want to focus on those A photos. And those are the ones that you want to make sure that they're digitized, so then you can share them with all your family members.
Have you seen that joy come out when they finally realize, hey, we do have a cogent story to tell, and these pictures are going to get organized so we can do it?
Yes, over and over. It's like a huge weight and relief is off their shoulders, because I know that those stories are priceless, and it's always that one thing you think, I'll get to that later. But we know whenever there's a funeral or a main event, somebody's getting married, what's the first thing we all want? We want to have I want to do a video montage of him growing up as a baby, and then he meets his wife. And those are the things that connect us to our families.
I can give a short story on that one because I knew that we were going to be chatting. So about a week ago, I went out and got a 35 millimeter slide converter. Again, I have 30 years of Kodachrome. So I went through some of it and got some old pictures of the family that nobody had ever seen, and converted them and sent them to my sisters. Well, holy smokes, the torrent of emotion that came out there, and saying, can we have them? Can we make a book? Can we do this? Can we do that? So it wasn't tough to do. It was a little, as I say, 35 mil slide converter, and the bingo, it's digital, it's in my computer, and I've done all kinds of things with them. So it was a whole bunch of fun. Tell me about, you began the association because you knew there was a need, the Association of Personal Photo Organizers. What do your members do?
We like to say they do 3 different things. One is they'll teach you how to do this with your photos. So say you're fairly computer literate, you just need somebody to come in and set up a folder structure. They could do that, or they could come and just do the scanning. Or they'll do it alongside you, which I did that quite frequently with clients, where I would actually go, and I always tell them I could take you through a box of photos that would take you a week to go through in maybe a few hours, because I'm not as emotionally attached. And so while you're telling me the stories and we're looking at the photos, I'm actually doing the sorting, which is really wonderful and helpful for people. Mm-hmm. Or we can take over the whole project and do it for you. So our members, we do have a certification program. They adhere to a high code of ethics. So we have grown to over 750 members in the U.S., Canada, the Netherlands, Australia, New Zealand, the United Kingdom. These are people who are passionate about family stories and helping clients and helping people share and pass those on.
You've seen some pretty interesting shots, I would guess.
Yeah, it's like uncovering such history, and people like you just found those photos that your family members hadn't seen. That's pretty common to uncover those gem of photos, and then that's just the most fun part of the project is when people, and it can bring up a lot of emotions. There's good times and bad times.
Once you take everybody through the Organizing Made Easy, assessing the mess and thematically organizing them and doing the ABC converting the pictures. What do most people do with them then? Once they've got them organized and they've got perspective on all these pictures and the stories that they evoke, what do they do then?
This is the part that makes it all worthwhile. We call it the celebrate and share time. And that's everything from maybe creating a beautiful legacies type photo book where the photos are in there with the stories. They interview them and you can write the stories that go alongside the photos. Or maybe make a gallery wall in your house where you have lots of photos, on the wall. Video montages to music. You could make slideshows to music. Again, this is what our members are usually hired to do at this point. You can make pillowcases. You can make blankets with photos. I mean, you can put a photo on anything.
If I was interested in becoming a personal photo organizer, what would I do?
Well, it's funny. I always say very few people come to us saying, I've been a photo organizer for decades and I just found you. It's really a new industry that we've created that is growing, as I mentioned. Our membership community is a great resource for one another. We have an annual educational conference, so there's lots of training and information to get you started in the business. And then our members outsource. Not everybody wants to do scanning. Maybe not everybody wants to do photo books. Some people don't want to touch digital photos, so they oversee the project.
Using the theory, you don't ask, you don't get, I'm going to ask you for something. Can we give the people listening to us now a little bit of a boost, a bit of a catalyst to get into their pictures and start going? Is there anything that APPO can give to the people listening to us now?
Yes, we'll have a link with a number of different resources that will get them started in things.
You go to legacycafe.org/APPO. Cathi will have some good stuff in there for us. Yeah, and I would guess once somebody gets started on this, they'll keep going once they see the value of starting to organize.
When you first look at that big mess, it can be overwhelming. Then put them underneath the table and put a tablecloth over it. But it really is not as difficult as you think. It's always that someday I'm going to do project. If the someday is sooner, it's the one thing you'll never regret doing. And we keep taking photos, so it's not like the mess is ever completely done. You're always going to be adding to the collection. We know right now, after all these terrible natural disasters and stuff, what's the one thing that people are most, once their families are safe and their pets, they go back to their homes and they're most upset about losing those memories to those family photos. So it's really important to do this now before those kind of situations happen.
Well, thank you for awarding us with this great stuff. I hope people listening got a lot out of it. And of course, go to legacycafe.org/APPO, and some of Cathi's material will be there that'll get you started and remind you a little bit of what we've done here. Thanks, Cath. That was terrific, and perhaps we'll chat again.
Great. Yeah, I'd love to. Thank you very much.
I'm Robb Lucy. Thanks very much for joining us. We'll see you again at the Legacy Cafe.
Hey, thanks for listening to the Legacy Cafe podcast. We're so glad you guys joined us. We have lots of great conversations coming your way. And by the way, if you want us to send you reminders that a new podcast is ready for you, go to legacycafe.org to subscribe. That's legacycafe.org. Have a great day, and remember, the coffee and conversations are always hot at the Legacy Cafe.